Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, so tonight we are going to take a look at Mice and Mystics. So Mice and Mystics is a game that these days needs no introduction. This is a kind of considered a venerable classic now. This is of course from Jerry Hawthorne and the mysterious Mr. Bistro. If you remember, I mentioned his name in my first video I did for Dungeon Run, the first and only video. I need to get back to that. That was the last video I did before I took a little break and I never got back to that game, but we will remedy that. Anyways, Mice and Mystics. This was kind of, I would say, considered Jerry Hawthorne's, it's almost like a prototype game for his adventure book series that he's doing now with Stuffed Fables and Comanauts. Because really, the tiles and the storybook in this game work exactly the same way as the adventure books do. It's just they're separated on the table instead of being one thing. So one thing that would be really awesome is if they did a second edition of Mice and Mystics in which there was a storybook and adventure book game combination. But maybe that would work, maybe it wouldn't, but that's beside the point. Right now on the board I have set up for the second scenario in the original campaign, Sorrow and Remembrance. So one thing that strikes me about Mice and Mystics is that, well, there's a couple things actually. First of all is the look. It has such a strong, cohesive design. And that is something I really love. I mean, just on the table when you have it set up, right now I have this like kind of whitish light shining on the board. It's just easier to make videos with. But when you have this game set up with some nice kind of, more yellowish mood lighting, maybe some candlelight, or something a little more dim and moody, this game it instantly evokes the feeling of its theme of being these mice in these tunnels in this kind of autumn, this mystical autumn tinged world. And everything about the game strengthens that theme and bolsters it. And I love that. It is one of the best games that I know of to really and instantly teleport its players into the world in the same way that Colin and his mice get teleported into this micro world of adventure. And one of the ways it does that is, of course, its look and the UI of everything, the design. And another way it does that is the writing. So the game was, as it says, written and edited by Mr. Bistro. So I'm really not sure who that is, but his writing chops are quite good. So here's the introduction text to Chapter 2, Lily's Tale. Nice little pun there. Prince Colin tightened the buckle of his belt and adjusted the angle of his sword before throwing his crimson cloak over his shoulders. Nez sighed. Your heart's in the right place, lad. I'll grant you that. But going back into that castle is folly. My father would go back, said Colin solemnly. He would do the right thing. Aye, and for him, it would be the right thing. Your father is a veteran, whereas you're a boy instead. I'm a man, grown, Nez. Perhaps, but you're as green as that grass out there. It was then that old Maginot walked up, followed by Tilda and Filch. I'll say the boy's been tested fine, said Maginot, and like the metal pounded upon the smith's anvil, we shall all either harden and grow strong or shatter into naught. Thanks for the encouragement, old man, muttered Filch. Maginot is right, said Tilda. Colin has developed a real affinity for the Barksburgers, and I'll say our fate is now entwined with theirs. Besides, if the prince of our kingdom says we should rescue Lanara's daughter, who among us has the right to say otherwise? And that's what we're doing in this adventure. Is this second part opens up with Lily, a new mouse that's about to join the party, being stuck. Her tail is captured in a mousetrap, and we have to get to her and help her out. And all she can do until we can free her tail from that mousetrap is sit, and she has to use her bow to defend herself from minions that are moving into her. And the other 3 mice, they have to be really quick and get to her tile and free her. But that intro story really does set the mood perfectly for the adventure. So I have played this before, and I wanted to go back and play it again because I wanted to use some of the encounters from the various expansions. I finally have all the expansions. So the original story is called Sorrow and Remembrance, and that is a nice, hefty book full of adventure. The second part is called Heart of Glorm, and that's a little smaller, but still looks like it has a lot of cool stuff. I've never played Heart of Glorm, and I've also never played Downward Tales, which is a massive book. So I wanted to play through everything and work up to playing through this. I'm really excited to get to this. But when I was talking earlier this year about Wander, the Cult of Barnacle Bay, I mentioned that maybe in my life right now, I'm not so much into the anthropomorphic animal thing like I used to be. But I don't remember, maybe I should have watched the video, but I don't remember if I talked about the Beast Epic when I was looking at that game. Because Mice and Mystics doesn't remind me so much of the anthropomorphic pop culture adventure things such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Usagi Yojimbo or what teenage adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters or any of that stuff. What it really reminds me of are the Beast Epics like Watership Down, Plague Dogs, the Wind in the Willows. And it reminds me of one of my absolute favorite books of all time, and that is Walter Wangerin Jr.'s The Book of the Dun Cow. So if you guys are into Mice and Mystics or Mouse Guard or Watership Down, that kind of stuff, and you have not read The Book of the Dun Cow, which was a National Book Award winner, I highly recommend it. This book is amazing. Some of the greatest writing, some of the best characters you'll ever read. You will remember this book for years and years. Very loosely based off one of the tales from the Canterbury Tales. But this is an absolutely amazing beast epic, focusing on these animals on a farm, not completely unlike something like Charlotte's Web. Imagine Charlotte's Web meets Lord of the Rings or something like that. So I just wanted to give this book a plug, and this is a perfect game to talk about this because I think if you like Mice and Mystics and you haven't read this yet, you're really, really in for a treat. But so we have Lily here. So we're trying to rescue Lily, and this is a good time to just go into like the character cards and a little bit about how the game is played. So there are let's see, a little tangent here. There are a lot of videos for this game on YouTube, but most of them are quite old because the game, like I said, it's getting up there in age, especially for board game when people, a cult of the new, are always looking for the next new thing. Anything 5 or more years is often considered old. So a lot of the videos for this are much older. I mean, if you look at the Dice Tower review for this with Tom and Melody, it's man, that thing is super dated. It looks like it's from a completely different era, right, of YouTube video. And one of the newer videos of this is from Shut Up and Sit Down. And they really disliked the game quite a bit. And I think Rado has a playthrough, and he didn't like it either. And a lot of the reasons why both of those review sites didn't like it is because of these things here, dice. People are on a absolute like mission these days to kill dice in gaming, and I think that is such a huge mistake, because these little square things, these little polyhedral ancient devices of divination, these are like cubes of drama that you hold in your hand, fate and drama, and you can get the greatest highs and the lowest lows just by simply rolling the wrong or the right thing. So while it can be something where you know, just like in D&D, you could wait 15 minutes for your turn, say, okay, I'm going to swing my sword, and boom, roll a 1, right? Or you could roll a 20 and be the hero. And I like that in games, and I am so glad that Jerry Hawthorne is continuing to use dice even in his new games, and coming up with more interesting ways for dice manipulation and more ways to mitigate the luck, but still have it in there to create that tension and that drama that dice just automatically create. You can't get around it. I mean, craps is a game of drama. Money's on the line and the tension is high. And that's how these games that use dice are, at least for me. But anyways, if you look at a character, we have a name. We have a kind of a starting class. There's a few different: archer, mystic, scamp, tinkerer, leader. And then we have your basic stats. So we have your combat stat, your defense stat, your lore, and your movement. And then a couple powers that each of the characters have. Their life points, and then what they start with. So Lily starts with her bow. So her bow turns her battle roll into a ranged attack. So this is one place where I think the game is a little weird, because the symbol on melee weapons is the same as the battle. So if she were to attack with this hammer, she would roll 4 dice. But if you were attacked with this bow kind of like turns that into a bow. So it would have been nice if maybe this was a different symbol, rather than just have it like be, I don't know, something that was just a generic battle symbol, and then depending on the weapon, then you get what I'm saying. It's a little bit confusing with the iconography, and there are a few things like that in this game. It is not a perfect game. There are some ambiguous rules on how to use certain items, on certain things you can do on the map. There is even a point in the book where it says that the players should discuss certain spaces on if you think you could see through them. So it's not a very elegant game, but it makes up for its lack of elegance and precise rules in its theme and its ability to create interesting stories and scenarios. And then each of the characters starts with a special power that they can use by spending cheese, which cheese is kind of like your currency that you use to level up and use your powers. And then each character has an initiative card that's going to go out on the track when an encounter starts. And so each mission, each story, each chapter in the book is going to lay out a whole bunch of various and different rules from the rule book, and special things, special situations and situations that happen on each individual tile as you're playing through. So one player will kind of act almost as a game master while playing the game, because they will constantly be looking at this book to see if there's anything special going on the tiles. So that can sometimes slow down the game a bit, but if you read through a couple times before you play the game, most of it is self-explanatory and most of it flows pretty well for the most part. Back to the look of the game. This deck here, so this is just from the base game, but this is the search deck. So these are all the items you can get. The game comes with a ton of items to use. especially when you add in the items from the various expansions. I mean, your deck is going to be, your search deck is just going to be massive, and that is so cool. And most of the items are unique, and they all have just great art. So there are bad things that happen to you when you can search. There are good, like kind of like one-off abilities you can get. But then there's just all kinds of great weapons and armor and items. Just all kinds of really cool things, and everything is thematic, like button shields, moldy cheese. Your cheese can get moldy that you earn. Different kinds of amulets, fish hook that you can use as a grappling hook, magical scrolls and accessories. So I love searching for items in this game because you never know what you're going to find, and when you do, it's almost always something fun and unique. So yeah, so you're going to be playing through the tiles. You're going to be exploring. Sometimes you might come to a tile that has like a ladder here, and maybe you have to explore, and like then you'll flip the tile and you'll move up in that tile into a different room, and you'll have something different to do in here. You have to jump on these chairs or use your grappling hook to get up to this table to maybe find a map or something. A lot of times if there's food on the table, the game will tell you to put little cockroaches. And so that'd be a good time to take a look at some of the minis here. So we've got the little cockroaches that you can get, these rat warriors and spiders and bullfrog troglodytes or something like that. Little troglodytes. You've got a weasel, looks like something out of Emmett Otter's Jug Band Blues. If you guys have seen that awesome Jim Henson Christmas cartoon. Some fairies, nasty little centipede or millipede. And then what is this guy, like a mole or something? And then you get all kinds of just incredible tokens with great art for all kinds of different and unique items. Little pets you can have, little bees. There's bugs and stuff. There are turtles to jump on in the water, eggs to find. And then of course the other expansion comes with with all kinds of neat like leaves that you can use as kind of kites to float down to the ground. You have a bird's nest with eggs. You have a snake that you can put together. A moon. I don't know what that's for. I haven't seen that part yet. And I don't even know what this is. So there's all kinds of stuff to discover, and it's all thematically linked to the game. Really, really enjoy all of this stuff. And so I keep my characters while I'm playing in these card holders. So we have Maginos here, and he has a warding staff and a shifting cloak and a mystic bolt. And then of course Tilda, my little mouse cleric. She has her mace and her breastplate, and she has a trick. Play this card anytime on this mouse's turn to immediately return one captured mouse to play. So when your characters are knocked out, they're not dead or anything. They are removed from the board, and it's like they've been captured. And Jerry Hawthorne, the designer, was saying that he was going to have it be where when you were captured, you would have to go on a little quest to get your mouse back. But he discovered that kind of just really slowed down the game. And so he more abstracted that. And so I think he did a really good job of simulating the fun stuff and abstracting some of the more boring stuff, like line of sight is very abstracted. There's hardly anything that blocks line of sight. So that's cool because it keeps the combat moving. And then so there's a few other characters. We have Filch the Scamp. These are some of the newer characters from the expansion. Nere, a wild mystic mouse. Ansel, he's a warden, a warrior. He looks pretty badass. I like him a lot. Diddy, my wife absolutely fell in love with Diddy, and it made her actually want to play this game. And she doesn't usually like these kinds of games with all these, she calls them like is that a game with like stats and hit points and stuff? It's like, yeah, but look, you can be Diddy the Shrew. And she was like, okay, I'm in. I want to try it. So that's one good thing. That's one thing that Jerry Hawthorne really excels at, is creating games that get people who may not be interested in dungeon crawls interested in them because of their themes. So like with Stuffed Fables, with the stuffed animals and like the kid-centric story, and then Comanauts with its like weird kind of psyche diving and almost like that movie Dreamscape. So yeah, he's really good at enticing new players into the genre with his theme and design. And then we have Jacob, a little archer gecko. So I think the art is really good throughout, but it has really improved as the game has gone on. I mean, that Jacob and Diddy just look amazing, and it's this classic look that really does harken back to my memories of like Watership Down and Wind in the Willows. So I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to playing through the base campaign again, and then moving on, starting again with the Heart of Glorm, because I've never actually played this one, and just seeing what kind of secrets and surprises and situations are going to be in store for me. So I really like this game. I will say it's basic. I mean, you are rolling. You know, your mice have a movement stat of like 1 or 2 or 3, and you're rolling a die to look for more movement. So there is a little bit of roll and move. You are rolling a lot of dice for combat, looking for swords. You're looking for shields when you block. You're looking for cheese to get hit points. There is a timer mechanism that keeps the game moving, and that is on this initiative track here. So when the bad guys, when they roll cheese, and in other certain situations, you're going to fill up this clock here, and there's going to be surges of enemies if that clock fills up. And when that clock fills up, you're going to lose a little bit of time. So I don't normally like time mechanisms in games, but this kind of does it. I think it does it well. There can be times where just bad die rolls will really kill you in a scenario, and you'll just lose your time, and that's it, game over. But it's pretty quick to set up, because once you get the layout and once you get everything read, you don't have to dig in and out of the box too much, mainly only for minis. And there aren't a ton of minis, so once you get everything organized and set up, you can play through a scenario pretty quickly. And if you lose and have to restart, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so that is Mice and Mystics. That is a look at this Beast Epic Dungeon Crawl. And it's a gorgeous game. I can see why it's a classic. I think this game is going to be around for a long time, and it's going to be one of those games that is really sought after, and I think it's going to be kind of like the status of Hero Quest. I know Jerry Hawthorne is a huge fan of Hero Quest and a huge fan of early dungeon crawl design, and that shows in this game. And he took it just enough steps to modernize it a little bit, but not too much. I think this is definitely a game that appeals to people more my age who have kids. I don't have kids, but I'm just a big kid at heart and mind and spirit, so this game really speaks to me. But if I did have kids, so it speaks to that generation of us who grew up with the early days of Dungeons and Dragons and Hero Quest and Warhammer Quest, who have kids and who want to introduce their kids to this amazing world of dungeon crawling. So if I did have kids, this would be one that we would play all the time. And I am looking forward to it. I want to take this game back to my hometown to play with my nephews sometime, because I think they would absolutely love it. So, all right. That is a overview / review / look at Mice and Mystics, a game that really doesn't need any more content on the web, but I thought I would give my maybe my unique perspective on it. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.